looking with kindness, with acknowledgement towards the inner dialogue is a really great place to start.
Intrusive thoughts, I watched a thing on it before, and it's like, just because you have a thought doesn't mean that it means anything. It's like your brain just can't, sometimes will be processing something in the background and be like, oh yeah, that's something I've been told not to do, oh that'd be fun to do.
CBT can help you identify, challenge and reframe these unhelpful thinking patterns.
If you can take negative comments from people in the street and convert that into, I'm going to reach out to somebody and share something that I like about them today, or I'm going to pay 5 people compliments.
You know that sinking feeling when you see a hateful comment? That nagging voice in your head telling you you're not good enough. From vicious online trolls to your own inner critic, it can feel like a constant draining battle for your peace of mind. And that psychological toll, it's very real. Studies show that exposure to negative comments online can immediately crank up your anxiety level and bring your mood down. But what if you could build a mental fortress so strong that none of it could ever touch you again? In this podcast, we're going to reveal the psychological hacks to silence the haters, the trolls, and that inside voice that is telling you you're not good enough. By the end of this, you'll have the tools to build an unshakable mental fortress and finally enjoy the silence. Let's start with how to deal with negative emotions.
It's quite all-encompassing, this question. How
It
to deal
is.
with negative emotions. So,
shall we break it down? How to deal with a negative internal dialogue.
that's a really good place to start. I think negative internal dialogue is it's the stress and it's the push and the pull within yourself about what you think is maybe right or wrong, or what you're happy about and what you don't like, and talking to yourself about that. I think it's important to acknowledge if you're dealing with a problem on your own, which your internal dialogue by definition is, you're dealing with the problem on your own. It's not coming from anyone else. It's the thoughts you've got running around your own head. I think sharing with other people, like trusted people in your life, is a really good way to at least help process what's going on. And maybe go into it with the impression of, I'm not going to correct this way of thinking. I'm just going to acknowledge it for what it is and see what other people think about this.
I think acknowledgement is a great place to start, yes. So dealing with that internal dialogue. The internal dialogue can pull a lot of strings behind the scenes that we're maybe not aware of. And it can be so profound that it can cause fatigue, burnout, injury, whatever it might be. It can cause lasting health implications, both mental and physical. So bringing it into your awareness is a great place to start. You know, what are these thoughts that go around in my head? What am I saying about myself? Questioning them, looking at them with kindness. You know, it's not a case of looking at them with judgment, because then you're making the problem worse. You know, it's the meta emotions argument, which is, you know, you feel bad. Okay, now you feel guilty because you feel bad. That doesn't help the situation. Looking with kindness, with acknowledgement towards the inner dialogue is a really great place to start. And then interrogate. Not shine the light and like, what are you doing? Why do you feel like this? But ask the question. So, is this true? What is that dialogue? Oh, I feel like I'm a bad friend. Well, why? What do you think makes you feel like a bad friend? You know, you're not looking with judgment. You're not interrogating yourself to the point of distress. You're just putting a little bit of pressure on it. You know?
No, I like that. We'll call that the Akai framework.
Akai?
Acknowledgement, kindness, interrogation.
Nice.
The 3 points you came up with there. And I think if you can remember that, then you're equipped to deal with internal dialogue that is maybe suboptimal. Because you can go, right, I've been through this. Like, this is a negative internal dialogue. So you've acknowledged what the situation is. Treating yourself with kindness about that and seeking others for help and sort of getting their opinions on it is going to be really helpful in you processing what that is. And that's the interrogation part, which is where you're going to be like, okay, what is going on here? Is there any judgment? Why am I judging myself? Am I going down that stream of like, oh, I feel bad about thinking negatively about myself, therefore I feel guilty, and therefore I'm going to feel anxious? Yeah. The Akai framework.
Akai framework. I think the Akai framework requires one to be vulnerable, to be open with both yourself and others. You know, you mentioned the importance of reaching out to people, and I agree. That can be a really important tool to help overcome that internal dialogue of reaching out and saying, hey man, hey mum, hey dad, I'm struggling with XYZ. Can we discuss it? That's going to be scary. It's going to be new. But one, it's part of your growth. Two, it's part of the acknowledgement in the Akai framework. And three, it's part of challenging that dialogue. You've got to challenge it.
Takes a lot of self-awareness as well. And I think if you've caught yourself having negative internal dialogue, then you have, whether you like it or not, you've got a certain level of self-awareness because you've been able to label it as such. And you've been able to find this video.
Yeah.
So you're doing things about it. You're making progress.
If you've got that negative internal dialogue as well, I think it's important to acknowledge and address what that dialogue is saying. You know, is it saying that you're not good enough? Is it saying you're underperforming somewhere? What is that dialogue saying? So then you can start to reframe and rejig that mindset, you know? So then you can start to counter it with arguments, you know, real proof. If it's that, oh, I think I'm a bad friend, that negative internal dialogue will go, oh, let's look at this. And then you start to look at the evidence. Well, I check in on my friends. My friends feel like they can call me. I make myself available. I'm a good listener. You're building evidence against it. It's really important to reframe it sometimes and look at the evidence that's in front of you. You could almost build like a brag file. You know, you could keep a journal, a document that says, oh, if ever I'm feeling this, this is my overwhelming stack of proof that that internal dialogue is not true. Having a place where you can just talk through it, build evidence against it, would be really valuable. Do you know what else I think is really important with negative internal dialogues?
What's that?
And it's a pillar in beneath the noise. Gratitude.
Key to most things in life. Anything to do with mental well-being and happiness. And also now we're saying as a combat to negative internal dialogue. It's like if you're grateful for the things that you have and have achieved, and for the people you have around you, things you have in your life, maybe it's for the space and time to actually have the time to think about the negative internal dialogue that you're having. It's like just being grateful for anything and everything is such a key to feeling happy and combating those negative emotions.
Absolutely. And if you're looking at gratitude, you'd likely then start focusing on some strengths that you have. Your strength of character, your strength of will, anything that you've achieved in your life, because you'll start looking at the wins rather than focusing on the negatives. Gratitude will have a profound impact on your life. But I also think if that internal dialogue has got to the point of damaging, seeking support is really important too. So whether that's counselling, whether that's therapy, whether it's professional psychiatry, whatever it might be, there is support out there. You know, Better Health in the UK is a really great opportunity to get that support and to question it. Sometimes getting the words out is really important as well, because then you hear it and you can sometimes hear how absurd it sounds. Whereas when it's stuck in our brain, we ruminate. We just go over and over and over, and we make it bigger in our head. And sometimes when we just get it out, we actually realize it's maybe not as big. The words are only as powerful as the meaning you give them. One thing I do want to mention is to be patient as well. You mentioned about self-compassion. Practicing patience with it as well. Just because we've gone through a list of reasons why and how you can get away from that negative dialogue that's in your head, doesn't mean it's going to happen like that. It's practicing patience towards yourself.
Absolutely.
Anything else regarding negative internal dialogues?
I don't think so. I think people can walk away from that, use the Akai framework, acknowledgement, kindness, and interrogation to hopefully send them on the right path to dealing with it, processing it.
So what would stem from that in terms of negative internal dialogue is how to deal with negative intrusive thoughts. So those thoughts that just appear in your head, that they're there, you can't shake them. The negative intrusive thoughts, you might be having a great day, then suddenly, boom, an intrusive thought has wormed its way in, whether it's triggered by something, whether it's something that's been ruminating all day and it's decided to show its face. Dealing with negative intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps into my head with intrusive thoughts is like all the little things that you probably would never act on, but like some examples would be like kick that baby, or jump off this really high ledge, or just swerve your car into that tree. Those sorts of thoughts. I don't know if I'm the only one that has them, but there you go.
If you also have thoughts of kicking babies, please let us know. And maybe seek some help.
Yeah. But that's the point, like the intrusive thoughts. I watched a thing on it before, and it's like, just because you have a thought doesn't mean that it means anything. It's like your brain just can't, sometimes will be processing something in the background and be like, oh yeah, that's something I've been told not to do. Oh, that'd be fun to do. Trying not to cast too much judgment on them is important.
To jump off that, because I think it's important, you've glossed over an opportunity there to share a practice that you install in your life as well. You've mentioned that thoughts don't always have meaning. Your brain is just constantly on. So a practice I know you install in your life is meditation.
Yes, I meditate most nights these days. And it just helps, settle everything down. Now, I don't recommend necessarily meditating if you're driving or operating any sort of heavy machinery. But yeah, just and maybe you do it out of the moment of what was it called? Sorry, again, the
how to deal with negative intrusive thoughts.
Intrusive thoughts, that's it. You can meditate and make it part of your wind down routine on an evening. Is I'm just going to spend 5-10 minutes doing quick meditation. I'll try and not think about anything, and if you do, don't judge it. Just push it to one side. Refocus.
A great tool that I learned when it comes to meditation, because there's whole different types of meditation one can practice. Sometimes just being told to go away and think of nothing can be extremely challenging.
Yeah.
A great tool that I learned is to just focus on like a river or some body of water that is moving. Focus on that. Just imagine that playing over and over in your head, and that's your focus. And then when your brain comes in, and naturally your brain will, something will come in your brain, whether it's positive, negative, it's an intrusive thought at that moment because it's not what you wanted to focus on.
Yeah.
Eventually, at some point, you'll catch that your awareness has shifted from that body of water, from the river, to that new thought. It might happen immediately. It might happen in 5 minutes. It might happen in 30 seconds. You don't know. And that's fine. But once you catch it, it's go, oh, let me just put that in the body of water and let it take it away. Because then you're learning that these thoughts that come into your head, you don't need to attach to. You can just let them move on through. I really like that meditation because it helps me feel at peace. And it's a lot more tangible than just focus on breathing. Just don't think of anything.
Yeah.
You focus on a body of water. For me, it's a river, a little trickling stream in a forest.
Very nice.
Just
you keep going like this. Is that the way that the water flows?
Yeah, it flows from right to left for me.
Interesting. You're like Arabic reading.
Yeah. And then, just put the thought in there. So I think that's a really great tool to deal with negative intrusive thoughts, which is meditation.
Yeah.
And I know it's something that's been very much a practice in both of our lives.
Yeah. I even bought a poncho. A Mexican poncho, because that's what I thought when I first started meditating. I was like, well, I'm going to take this seriously. I've got to wear a poncho every time I meditate. But
the ironic thing is there could be some significance in that, because it's, I only wear this when I meditate. So therefore, when I wear it, I'm immediately...
become more peaceful.
Yes, exactly. Some people have a place in the house where they go to meditate. I do. I have a place in my room where I meditate. I actually sit on the floor. I don't ever sit on the floor.
Sit on the floor as well.
But I know when I sit on the floor, I'm meditating. I have a candle with a certain scent. Again, similar thing. So sometimes having something that allows you to get in that zone is really important.
Maybe we could do like a guided meditation as like a link in the description or something.
We could. I don't think either of our voices are very calming or soothing.
Now imagine the thoughts going down the river.
Yeah, your deep voice and my nasally voice.
Now, if you imagine that there's a river in front of you, there's forests and trees.
Yeah, with negative, intrusive thoughts, slightly different from where we started of the internal dialogue. I think it's important with these to label the thought. Identify it as an intrusive thought. Not just, like a threat or a command, I must do this. It's an intrusive thought. Label it as such, because then your brain can associate intrusive to cognitive awareness on that thought. But with negative intrusive thoughts, a really great tool for people is CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. Again, we mentioned about seeking help in the previous discussion. However, in this one, negative intrusive thoughts can help you identify, CBT can help you identify, challenge and reframe these unhelpful thinking patterns, often using a catch it, check it, change it approach.
Catch it, check it, change it. I like it.
Yes. How to deal with negative intrusive thoughts. Again, it is very similar to negative internal dialogues, but these are ones that are coming in. So practicing that awareness and understanding that these are negative intrusive thoughts. They don't belong in my brain. Let's move out slightly. Let's expand our circle. So how to deal with negative emotions, how to deal with negative internal dialogues, and how to deal with negative intrusive thoughts. Now we're going to look at our close circle, so the people who matter in our lives. How to deal with a negative partner.
Yeah, really difficult one because it's very emotionally complex.
It is. You're now discussing how to deal with a negative partner with someone that you love and care for, and you've got a lot of trust with, a lot of time invested into, and it's scary because it requires a lot of vulnerability, a lot of probably emotionally charged conversations, and might feel like you're trying to, navigate with the lights off ever so slightly. You're trying to feel away, but hopefully through our discussion, people will feel a little bit more comfortable how to deal with a negative partner.
So the first thing to identify, I suppose, would be that there's definitely a problem and it's not just your perception of the situation, which I think can actually, if you just have that conversation with a trusted friend rather than directly with the partner initially, you can explain, well, this is my perspective on the situation. Does this sound like it would be bad? This is how it's making me feel. And then the friend will either say, yeah, but actually, no, she's been reasonable or whatever. So I think that's a good starting point, because then you can then when you do approach the conversation with your negative partner, you're able to know, okay, well, it seemed strange to the other person as well. It's not just me, because you feel slightly more backed up. Then you're going to go to it with like, okay, not as in you're going to take charge of the situation. Like, no, I'm absolutely right and you're wrong. It's
so you're asking
confidence.
for support. Like, this is what you're suggesting is you're asking for support with someone that you care for, so that way you can approach your negative partner, whether they're consistently or sporadically, but with a more understanding mindset. That's what you're allowing yourself to do, is just be more present for that conversation, because you've spoke it through, you've allowed yourself to process as well.
Yeah, that's it. And then you can have that conversation, and you can say, and it's very difficult to do this without a direct example, but let's say they don't get very enthusiastic when you've achieved something good, for example. Would that would count as a negative partner, wouldn't it?
It's a very broad term, negative partner, but there are loads of different ways that someone might experience a negative partner.
So in that particular scenario, it's quite easy because it's something they're not doing rather than something they're actively doing to make you feel worse, if that makes sense. So you can just do a normal activity. For example, if my girlfriend wasn't ever supportive, I would say, do you want to go for a coffee? Because we're always going out for coffees. I'm addicted. And then we'd sit down at the coffee shop, and I'd just be like, by the way, I was really excited the other day by this, and if you're still like, oh, cool, and then carries on with whatever, be like, calling you out on that. That's unacceptable.
So you're expressing your needs.
Yeah, it's just share it. It's like my idea of an ideal partner is somebody that I can have absolutely no secrets with and just share back and forth. And I guess it's the idea of like eventually becoming one person and all of this rubbish. But like, I like the idea of me not hiding anything and it being the same. She didn't hide anything with me. I don't hide anything with her. And then you eventually get to a point where you just fully understand each other. And once you're at the point of understanding, you actually find you don't need to share as much because you can just think the same way as they would think. Or like, I know how they would think in this situation. Mm-hmm. Things like that. But I think, just opening that line of two-way communication, saying that I don't feel like my needs are being met in this area. Do you feel like you were supportive? Is there a way that we could change how you show support? Is there something we could do there to make this better? Because it actually ended up making me feel worse about the thing when I was actually very excited about it initially. And I've had not that conversation, but similar conversations as relationships evolve, and it's just, as long as you're open and honest and they respect that, then everything's okay.
So you're engaging in a open, clear dialogue and allowing vulnerability. That's going to be a lot harder than what we've just said.
Yes.
But if you feel like the communication is not there within your relationship, then I would encourage you to start opening up lanes of communication, because if this is the person you've chosen to navigate life with, you should feel like you've got the opportunity to share your biggest excitements, your deepest worries with them, and that be okay. That's okay. They're going to support you. They're going to be there with you at every step of the way. So opening that lane of communication is really important, because then you've got that level of trust and respect there. I think what's important when it comes to, say, a negative partner who's maybe experiencing a down period or is getting slightly negative as time goes on, whatever it might be, there's naturally different shoes that might fit, is not to take it personally. If the negativity is not always directed because of you, if you're not the cause of the negativity, then it's important to not take it personally. Because if you take it personally, you might see it as an attack, which then might erode your relationship and how you communicate with that person. Because unspoken expectations lead to premeditated resentments. So if you're assuming that it's coming personally attacking at you, you're then going to start resenting them slowly over time, which will likely cut that line of communication and also put a barrier in front of you guys from actually getting to the source of the issue. And if you're taking it personally, unfortunately, you're likely going to amplify that feeling for your partner. Yeah.
I think identifying where you're both coming from is a super important part. Because, for example, in the example I gave, they could have been having a really bad day on that day, and then you've chosen to bring it up on another day, and it's like they can't even remember what's going on. So if you have a think, maybe ask them how their day was first going forwards, and that could be a good way to identify what the response is going to be like, and then you've shown them support, because also that might put them in a mindset to where they've now decompressed, and then they can be more supportive of you. Or I'm trying to think of another
so you said, sorry to jump off there, you're setting clear boundaries, you're communicating your limits of when you can communicate, and also their emotional availability as well. If, say, they are overtly negative all the time, you don't want to just reinforce that. You want to validate their feelings. Of course, you want to acknowledge them, give them support, but you also don't want to get stuck in a negativity loop. I can talk about this for 15 minutes and then I'd like to move, because sometimes people just get stuck in that negativity, rather than looking for possible solutions or talking about ways they might be able to grow or fix a problem. And not everything is always about fixing. That's something I do want to touch on. It's not everything always about fixing a problem, but you don't want to get stuck in that negativity loop.
Yeah.
Because once you're stuck in it, breaking it becomes very challenging.
Yeah, and suddenly you start seeing negativity everywhere rather than just the one thing that initially wound you up.
Exactly. And a great way to combat that is negative free zones. You know, so specific times and locations that are off limits for negativity to help maintain balance. You know, if you know that the lounge, the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, those are negative free zones, then you know that there's going to be a little bit of space, and it also might help that person actually feel a little bit at ease, because you might find that if they're feeling negative, having the constant space and time to always play into that negativity is going to create that feedback loop.
Yeah.
Whereas if they know they can't be negative in the kitchen, hang out in the kitchen, they'll come in and be like, oh, I've got to be happy. They might start changing their mindset because they've visibly got to.
Yeah. It's a really good idea. I'm going to implement that.
Negative free zones. The flat is a negative free zone. Can't be negative anywhere in the house.
Whenever you're talking to me, it's a negative free zone.
This area around here is a negative free zone.
Yeah, don't be inside of that. No, that's a really good framework. I think that's something people can take away and actively use. What do you do if your partner thinks that's silly?
If they think that's silly, I would encourage them to, one, have a discussion, share why they think that's silly, and then talk to them about why you don't think. You can then look at things as experiments. You know, let's try it. You know, this is how I've perceived the last few days, and I love and care for you, but I'd like to try and make us feel more amicable and on the same page. Meeting them where they're at. If they think it's silly as well, again, just expressing your needs and your boundaries. You know, unfortunately, your emotions have drained me, because your emotions are valid. As long as you're not attacking them, you know, you're always negative, you're always ruining my day, that's wrong, you're attacking them. But if you support them and explain how you're feeling, you'd like to think it would be met in a similar way. You can then help them find help, whether that's therapy, whether that's getting out in nature, whether that's going out for walks, whether it's going to new clubs, getting to the gym, whatever it might be, helping them grow as a person as well, getting out and shaking the ground from under their feet a little bit, because sometimes comfort and repetition breeds a lack of inspiration, whereas changing the script can sometimes allow old negative thought patterns to dissipate. But you've got to protect yourself as well. So you've always got to prioritize your self-care, because it can be quite challenging when with someone that is expressing negative emotions.
Yeah, if you can't be honest with yourself, how can you expect anyone else to be open and honest with you? That idea.
How to deal with negative people and stay positive.
My favourite one.
Oh, you got a lot to say on this one.
How to deal with negative people and stay positive.
Yes.
Turn their negative comments into your positivity. This is one thing that I've always implemented. If somebody's saying something negative to you or about you, I love to automatically think that the reason they're being negative towards me is because they're at some level jealous of something that I've done. It might be true, it might not be true, but if somebody says, I don't know, you suck at making videos, be like, well, at least I've made some videos, you know, and they think they can't make videos, and therefore they had to comment that because it makes them feel better about the fact that they haven't been able to do it.
So you're acknowledging your worth. You're trying to look at the facts that you have rather than whatever negative thoughts they might be expressing.
Yeah.
So in your scenario, obviously, Will Taylor here is a very successful YouTuber, whether he believes it or not. But unfortunately, negative comments is part of the game, and we'll get on how to deal with negative comments online. That's a topic for later. But negative people might be expressing jealousy or envy.
Yeah. I feel like 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. Negative comments can also be sometimes because you've done something wrong as well, and the way that you sort of deal with that is by dealing with it. You think, okay, did I do something wrong? Did they call me out on it? And am I just annoyed with them because they called me out? But I think what this question's really getting at is How to deal with negative comments and turn them into a positive, something along those.
How to deal with negative people and stay positive. We all love the people that are overtly positive in our life, and we want to try and surround ourselves with people like that. I've got some great friends that are positive the majority of the time, and it's great to be around them. I always feel super pumped about life after a day with them, and I hope that's how people feel with me. But when you've got someone that is maybe overtly negative and they can't find joy, they turn everything into negative sort of spirals, or that must be nice for you, but I can't have that. You know, that negative thought pattern. My first thought, because of how I always jump, is just practicing empathy without getting pulled in. You know, I'm going to try and understand where you're coming from. I'm going to try and relate to you, but I'm not going to get pulled in. I'm going to understand that there is somewhat of a clear boundary here. You know, you can express your negativity and I'm going to listen, but this is my boundary and I'm not going to be dragged in because misery loves company. So it's understanding that it's okay to set a boundary. It is okay to say, I've only got an hour this week, because misery, again, loves company. People love to just say the same thing again and again and again. How many people do we know that hate their job but never change it? And if your clear boundary is like, I'll listen for 15 minutes about you and your job, but you've not changed it for the last 5 years. So I think at some point you've got to take some ownership and change it, because you talking about it clearly is not making anything better. So that's a clear boundary and a clear understanding of what topics can and can't be brought up, and it's being brave enough to enforce that as well.
Yeah.
And consistent in enforcing that. But yeah, having empathy without getting pulled in and having clear boundaries. It might unfortunately mean redirecting conversations.
That's all right.
And it's being brave with that. You know, if someone's bringing up their job and how much they hate it, and again, they've been in there for 5 years. So what do you like about your job? What's going well outside of work? What are your hobbies? What are you passionate about? Redirect it. So what did you do after work? You know, what made you smile after work? How did you change your mood after work? Did you do something you loved that day? Changing it, bringing something positive. I always loved this in sales, this mindset. So I used to work in sales, which is, so what did you love about it? Rather than going, what did you think? That implies that there's space for negative. But what went well? You know, what did you do really well yesterday? What are you proud of yesterday? Positive conversations.
Yeah, super important. I agree with everything you're saying, which is probably not good for content, but I should be disagreeing. I should be like, no, I think you should. I don't know.
Well, we're trying to give active points, aren't we?
Yeah,
really?
no,
It's what we're trying to do. So sometimes as well, if the space allows, is you can, if someone is overtly negative about an issue and it's face to face, it's in person on a walk for coffee, is try and find solutions where possible. And again, it's without getting drawn in, because in this scenario, say someone that's been in a job for 5 years, you might be like, oh, come on, just change your job. And you're invested, you're clearly passionate about it. But you've got to understand that people are on their journey and you're on yours. And you can't get pulled off your journey to go in theirs and get invested if it's a choice. You know, you make a mistake once, that's a mistake. You make it again, that's a choice. If you're in a job you don't like and you refuse to change it, that's a choice. And understand that people are on their own journey, and that's okay. And if you've got that clear little boundary up, you can be empathetic, you can listen to an extent, you can help set goals to get out of it to an extent, you can focus on solutions to an extent, but you know you're on your journey, and that's how you stay positive.
Yeah. Again, gratitude as well. Just the person in front of me could be being negative. Anything in my life could be happening that's negative. But the way that you stay positive in spite of all of those things is just by having gratitude for the things that you do have. Can't really say that point enough.
Gratitude is always super important.
Just is the answer.
And when you're with negative people as well, it's maintaining your own inner state. So don't let their mood dictate yours.
Which is really hard.
Yes. So sometimes you might leave an interaction with them and go, oh, I just feel like I'm carrying some of that negativity. You go, is it mine? No, it's not. Let me just get rid of that. That mindfulness technique, again, of the river. It's okay to just go, oh, that's not mine. I'm just going to get rid of it. Oh, I can feel a bit of their attachment. That's not mine. I'm just going to get rid of it. And yeah, continue to invest in your energy, your growth, your relationship, support your own well-being, because that is going to help you be positive. Like what we said about what did you do well that day. So if you've had maybe a slightly draining conversation, what can you do to give back to yourself, to refill your cup?
Yeah.
I suppose the last point on this one, how to deal with negative people and stay positive, is knowing when to walk away.
Yeah, which is the toughest one because it's prioritizing you. It's finally being selfish. But selfish has a lot of negative connotations, but this is selfish for the right reasons. It's acknowledging people all have their places in your life, and you can only give somebody so much string before they're going to pull you in, you know?
At what point do you decide you walk away from a friendship, or have you done so?
Just when I can feel when I'm done. Like I know when something's run its course, so it's just,
You trust yourself.
yeah, like I'm always there for people who need, and if anyone calls me, like I'm there. If anyone messages me, I respond quickly. And then it's like there's a certain amount of time you do that until you feel like you're being taken advantage of when they're not giving the same back. And it's, yeah, at that point I'm like, I feel like you're just messaging me when you need rather than not.
Yeah, there are definitely those people that will always message you when they need something, when things are going badly for them, and then they'll never message you when things are going well or they don't need you. They're only ever there to sap your energy, and that's unfortunately a one-sided, unhealthy relationship. And that's when it's time to walk away. When it comes to the expense of your happiness, your self-worth, that's the time to walk away.
And I think the framing for it is it's not a loss, it's a gain. It's a weird type of gain because you're actively getting rid of something in your life, but what you're getting in return is it's like getting rid of a monthly payment. It's like you're having to pay some of your positivity away and take on board some negativity every month. Well, if you could just stop paying away that positivity.
You're being courageous to put yourself first.
Absolutely. And then also it allows room for other people that are more enriching to your life to walk in. It's like maybe you can only feasibly manage 5 core strong relationships in your life. One of them might be your other half, and then you've got 4 friends. Well, if one of those friends, 2 of those friends are a negativity drain and the other 2 are just all right, then
Middle of the ground.
yeah, then, you know, if you got rid of 1 or 2 of them and were able to bring in another 2 in the great scheme of your life, another 2 positive influences, then yeah, you're going to feel way more enriched.
Nice.
So, yeah, but I think maybe not rushing to make any decisions. And we've said before, there's never a moment where you're like, you're not my friend anymore, and just run away. You're not going to my birthday party. I'm not spelling your name with a capital letter because you're not important. That's an insult I used to do when I was a kid. Nobody else got it. Yeah, you just sort of fizzle them out of your life. Like you might bump into them at a couple of like big group friend gatherings, and you like say hello, how you been? Cool, and then carry on with your life. Like there's no
Healthy distance.
yeah.
Because you're protecting your energy. You're protecting your space.
Yeah, there's no need to put yourself in situations that are just going to drag you down. Also, I know this isn't what this podcast is about, but like if you have big goals, sometimes certain friends just aren't going to help you get there. If anything, they're just going to hold you back. So let go of them.
Very true. So we've looked at ourselves, looked at our close social circle, but now I think we need to expand it ever so slightly and look at almost the public encounter. So widening the lens to people we don't know. Because unfortunately, people we don't know can have a profound impact on us, which is a shame, which is what I'd like to look at. So how to deal with negative comments in the street.
And also comments doesn't always necessarily mean verbally. You can have a negative comment by the way that somebody looks at you, or maybe it's disrespect from I don't know, somebody working behind the bar or whatever, and they just don't treat you very well. Or it's at Tesco's, the person at self-checkout is like really agitated that you've got to be approved for a monster. You know, trust me, I'm more agitated than you are, love. You know, like, can the machine not see this is a beard? No 16-year-old has this, or 15-year-old. Yeah. So how do you deal with that? How do you process that? And I think that the easiest thing about dealing with negative comments in the street is the fact that you'll probably never see them again. So it's like, you don't even know if it was particularly directed at you. Maybe you do. Maybe it is really obvious. But I think everyone at some point has been walking down their town centre and they've had a drunk shout something at them. You know, you're not carrying that around with you for the rest of your life because he called you a so-and-so, you know? It's like you just acknowledge the fact that that's somebody else. Your life has nothing to do with their life. And you just sort of continue as best you can in the knowledge that you are enough, hopefully.
Yeah, you have a nice framing which you use in other circumstances in your life, but I think it's relevant here and I think it's worth you expanding on it. Is this going to matter in 5 years?
Yeah, it's so good.
Talk to us about that mindset, man, because I think it's profound. I think it's really important.
If you're doing anything today that isn't going to benefit you 5 years from now, or even a year from now, then just don't do it.
Well, so if someone has a negative comment for you in the street, whether it's a throwaway comment or a judgment made, is that comment going to matter in 5 years? Probably not.
It probably won't even matter tomorrow.
Exactly. So is it worth spending the next however long allowing that to impact your space and your circle? Probably not.
No. The other thing is, you can let it impact you if you're in control and you say, I'm going to allow this to impact me. This person said that, why are you walking down the middle of the street during the middle of the day? Right? The implication there is that you're unemployed and you do nothing. Well, in my case, I'm self-employed. I go home and I'm like, I'm not unemployed. I'm self-employed and I'm going to prove just how good I'll never see him again, but I'm going to prove just how self-employed I am by working twice as hard today just to do even more.
So you're practicing self-compassion and reflecting on it and then processing it, but also without giving any massive attachment to it. You're just practicing self-compassion after the incident, going, you know what? I know who I am. This external person I've never met doesn't have any bearing. They don't understand what I've done or who I am to get to this point, which is I'd like to raise a little quote or a word. So it's not a real word. I don't think it's in the English dictionary, but it's Sonder. I have it tattooed on me. The profound realization that every random stranger you see is living a life as complex, vivid, and as detailed as your own, filled with their own stories, struggles, joys, and history, making you just a background character in their larger narrative. So the reason I bring that up is you are going to interact with people that have their own unique complexities going on. Their comment, judgment, assessment of you is only clouded by their lens. They might have had a terrible day. Their mum might have passed away. You don't know. And understanding that their comment is entirely to do with them and likely nothing to do with you. So it's understanding that it's sad and it's negative and it might maybe get to you a little bit, might have touched a nerve. But it's okay, it's likely a reflection on them and where they're at, rather than you should take it on board and change. Because in reality, if you changed everything based on what strangers think, you would never have any sort of identity. You'd be constantly trying to please others.
Yeah, it's true. And if one step even better, if you can take negative comments from people in the street and convert that into motivation towards anything in your life, whether that's to, that person was negative towards me, and so they reached out to me and said, well, I was negative in some way. I'm going to reach out to somebody and share something that I like about them today, or I'm going to pay 5 people compliments, something like that.
I like that.
Because then you've taken that negativity on board. You'd be like, well, that, like I can use the framing of that. I can use the sort of, somebody approached me and made me feel bad. Well, I'm going to approach somebody else and make them feel good, and do that 5 times. It's like just always pay somebody a compliment every day.
Choosing to spread positivity rather than to engage in that negativity. I really like that, man. That's a really cool tool. And likely through spreading that positivity to strangers or people you know, you'll likely feel a little bit of joy.
Yeah, it's selfish, making other people feel good.
It is. It's bizarre, isn't it? But yeah, it definitely is. So I would say as well, if you get a negative comment in the street, just make sure you're prioritizing prioritizing your safety and your well-being. So staying calm, disengaging from the situation, not getting involved. You don't want to escalate that situation.
No, it's just easier to walk away.
Yeah, practicing your safety is really important. Not taking it personally. Make sure that you don't feel threatened or like the situation is going to escalate, and if you do, removing yourself from it.
It's actually quite interesting how that could as well play into one of the first ones we talked about, which is negative internal dialogue. If somebody gives you a negative comment and it strikes a nerve, then they might physically walk away from the situation, but they might be carrying around that for hours or days afterwards, which if they're doing that, they're carrying it, which means it's an internal dialogue at that point. And it's, we've spoken before about who's that voice in your head that's judging everything that you do. And really, we've worked out that it's your own voice through that person's face. You can then use the Akai format to then also get out of that. So you acknowledge the fact, oh, this person says something negative. It's rolling around in my head. I wonder why that is. And then you apply kindness to that. Like, okay, that's okay. It's, clearly they said something and it got to me, but that's okay. And then you just go into depth and like, okay, why do I think that got to me? Am I fundamentally doing something wrong? No. And then try and work by it. So I think, that Akai formula is brilliant. You did a very good job.
Thank you. I think sometimes as well, it's okay to, if you feel safe to do so, to engage with that person and try and just set clear boundaries. Because I'll give you a scenario. I was on a train to London in the office and I was having my breakfast. I had a guy behind me and I was sitting and eating. And apparently I was knocking the bowl a little bit too loud with my spoon. I wasn't aware of it. But he put his hand right next to the window near my face, started slamming on the window. And I was like, what's that? Took out my thing. I was like, oh, odd. Started doing it again right by my face. And I took it out and went, I'm sorry, like, is everything okay? He went, it's annoying, isn't it? I went, I'm sorry, I'm not sure, like, what's annoying. It's like, you scraping your bowl. And I went, I appreciate you could have told me this in a more mature way, but thank you for letting me know. I was not trying to escalate the situation, but I was trying to be like, look, you've handled that immaturely, you've handled that poorly. I'm a human, you're a human. Talk to me.
Yeah.
And again, in that moment, I was like, well, that's a reflection on you, brother. You're clearly wound up. You're clearly stressed about your day. A slight tapping on a bowl. Chill out. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no bearing on my life and it's okay. Something I think you might have a lot to talk about because you do have an online presence. How to deal with negative people online. So again, you have a YouTube account of nearly 500,000.
And shrinking.
As you like to remind me.
I lost another 100 subs yesterday. Yes.
So how to deal with negative people online.
It's very similar to dealing with negative people in the street. It's, does that person have any understanding of actually what's going on in your life? Probably not. If you know them and they're commenting online and it's negative, well, that's like more of a personal attack. But generally, even the negative comments that I've got, like, jump off a bridge, or you sound like a strangled cat, or I don't know, bro loves his ceiling. I'm not entirely sure that's a negative one, but they're not saying it to be positive, I don't think. Like, when's the wedding between you and your ceiling? Like, I get loads of them. With like hundreds of likes as well on those comments. That's
what me.
They get
liking them.
Some of those comments get more likes than the videos. Yeah, they like, it's either you look at it and it's funny, and you look at it from like an outsider's perspective, and it's like, if I was just watching this video and it was somebody else's, like, would I find that comment funny? And if yes, then there's no problem with it. It's only because I'm the butt of the joke that I'd be the problem. And so as long as you're all right being the butt of the joke, you're fine. The ones that are like, oh, just jump off a bridge. It's like something's happening in your life to make you want to say that to somebody else.
Because they're haters, aren't they? I hate that word, but they are. Like
Yeah.
someone that's saying jump off a bridge or engaging meaningfully in a horrible way. That's a hater. That's someone that's just trying to cause grief.
Yeah. I've just never really put much weight on anything they say. It's like, to me, the internet, like, that was always going to happen. Like, if I got a big following, I was always going to get death threats. It's like, you know, that's just what it is, part of the job.
But I suppose when you shrink it down and say social media, how to deal with negative comments might be on like your personal account, even if you have like a couple of hundred followers or maybe a couple of thousand, whatever it might be. There's always unfortunately going to be negative people because social media removes the blame, removes the name. You know, you wouldn't say that in person, but because people are hiding behind a screen, they feel like they can get away with more stuff, which is sad. But it's understanding that people wouldn't do it in person and they're only doing it likely to try and lash out and cause grief. Likely, like you say, because they don't have too much going on their life and it's could be a reflection on them. But that's definitely something that is worth just putting some distance between. You can also mute, block and report people if ever needed. You know, if someone is really causing a grief and it's ruining your sense of stability, your sort of zen peace, you can just mute, block or report these people.
Yeah. It can also, although the comment is targeted towards you and it doesn't impact you, it can affect other people's lives who are in the comments. It's like if you have an audience that you've carefully nurtured, or even just your friendship group and some stranger on the internet comes on and says something really negative about you, it can upset other people who are a part of that community, another part of your life. So yeah, removing it can be good. I tend to not remove them, but I don't know if that's past the threshold of too many and I just couldn't be bothered. But also I like the engagement. It's like, if I can just get negativity, like, that's fine.
No exposure is bad exposure, I guess. But it's also, if it becomes overwhelming, you can take a break from social media.
Yeah.
Naturally, it's different for you because you are employed by your use on social media. But if it is social media that you're using and it's your personal account, you can take breaks from it. Not because you're letting them win, but you're prioritizing your mental health.
Yeah.
It's also remembering your values, remembering who you are, being solid in your foundation and not reacting emotionally. Not giving them anger or defensiveness, because that likely just amplifies them. They want a reaction from you. It's what they want. So let's strip it down to the last kind of layer that I think we'll find is negative feedback, negative work, negative reviews, negative comments. So how to deal with negative feedback. We can niche it down to work, or we can keep negative feedback as a whole.
Well, I've got some examples for when I was at university in songwriting.
Please share.
It was a really big thing. Like, the number one piece of advice that I got from every single lecturer was be really open to feedback, because you're going to get lots of different people's perspectives on your music, and it's really helpful for you improving. The problem is music is usually very integral to who the person is. So, for example, if I write a song and I think it's good, there's nobody in the world that can tell me that song's bad because I think it's good. But people will give you feedback about, oh, I don't like that bit, I don't like that bit, you should have done this wrong. And there's very rarely like a positive. They're always like, yeah, that is a song, you're right, but you need to change this about the verse, you need to make the intro a bit shorter, you need to make sure that the drums in the chorus are more punchy, you need to do this, this, and this. It's just like a long list of like, you did all of this wrong, and but it's a nice song. Like, oh, okay, well, is it? So that you have to build like a thick skin with feedback, and you need to have a thick skin. I think that's probably good advice throughout life, no matter what. The other thing to remember is that maybe just assume the feedback you're getting is coming from a wholesome place. People actually want to help you improve. It's not an attack. It's just feedback.
I think what's important there is it is okay to ask questions on their feedback, because you do want to differentiate their feelings to the facts as well. There's some things that are categorically, this is feedback based on constructive thoughts. And then there's feedback that's just based on their feelings and their sort of imprint on what they expect. So you're allowed to ask questions, and I probably would encourage you to ask feedback when it comes to, ask for questions when it comes to negative feedback, because then you can help better understand it as well. You can separate the facts from the feelings. You can identify what's valid for you and what you respect and what you want to give attention to. But it's also important not to react. You know, if someone's come back to you and says, the drums in the chorus need to be more punchy. Well, I'm going to punch you in a minute, mate. Just maintaining your reaction. Like, take a breath. Let your emotions settle, because you might find that you get a little bit emotionally charged when someone gives you negative feedback, whether you respond with anger or defensiveness, sadness. Take a breath. Listen to what they're saying. You know, it's okay to listen to negative feedback. Staying calm.
Yeah. And once again, if somebody gives you feedback and you disagree with the feedback, you don't necessarily have to change anything. An example of when I did that is my song Fire and Stone. I played that for my university class. Half the class said they didn't like the song. The lecturer was like, this section's too long. This won't work commercially, whatever. Put out the song Fire and Stone. It was my biggest song I ever put out, over 100,000 streams in the first 6 months. So just prove people wrong. You know, maybe people don't know what they're doing.
So that's the seeking clarity, isn't it? That's the asking questions.
Yeah.
That's the finding out what you want to listen to and what you don't. Sometimes there's grey area when it comes to self-expression, songwriting. Sometimes there's clear right and wrongs where you're asking for feedback. So it's just getting clarity, isn't it? We're not going to give a perfect example for every single bit of negative feedback, but it's asking for clarity. Understanding specific information regarding the feedback. And then it's also worth trying to rebuttal back I statements. So I hear that you're saying this. Is that correct? So trying to understand it better. You know, this is what I'm hearing. Is that right? And then my guy actually, no, sorry, this is what I mean. And then you lose that area of sort of
interpretation and
yeah, exactly. It's important to get clear feedback that you properly understand.
Yeah, you don't want to be inferring anything.
Exactly that. And then it's the process, isn't it? Like you said, so you've got to process through it. You've got to take on board what you think is relevant. Decide whether you want to action some of the feedback. And again, it can be very nuanced. It could be regarding self-expression. It could be regarding clear right and wrong answers. So in that case, it might be you have to implement everything. In self-expression, you're going to choose what you want to implement from that negative feedback. Process and act, but knowing when to disengage. So if that feedback is consistently negative, from a toxic source, someone that really doesn't have your best interest at heart, because reality is someone giving you negative feedback could be from the best intentions in the world and they really love and care for you and want to help you grow, but it could be from someone that really just doesn't want the best for you. So it's understanding where that information is coming from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how to deal with negative feedback. How to deal with negative feedback from customers.
Oh. Customers always right, aren't they?
No. That's been categorically disproven.
That's where the saying came from. I find it so funny. So people started running businesses in the modern world and they realized that customers are a pain in the ass. So then everyone's mistreating customers and saying you can't ask for that, and then they have no customers. So the very fact that customers are always wrong means that the customer has to always be right, otherwise you have no business. So it's And then everyone's now coming around and saying again, like, no, but the customer's always wrong, not understanding the point that it was said like as an opposite anyway in the first place, because customers are obviously always right. You run the business, it's your product. If they don't like the product, then that's not your problem. They're just not meant for your business. But if you can please the customers, you have a more successful business. Apparently I was quite passionate about that. How to deal with negative customers. I think once again, it's trying to understand the situation, trying to see where they're coming from. And then probably making sure you can do whatever it takes to make them comfortable with their purchase. And ideally try and get some sort of return business.
Oftentimes, customers just want to be heard. So, like you say, listening, empathizing to an extent, thanking them as well. Thank you for bringing them to your attention. And I also think it's important to acknowledge the next steps. You know, some people just want to be heard, but some people are like, okay, so what are you doing about this? Telling them, acting, acknowledging publicly, privately, whatever it might be. But it's okay to say, yeah, thank you very much for that bit of feedback. This is what we're going to be doing to adjust it. Because they might be right. They might be spot on. You know, this is wrong. It's like, yep, thank you for bringing that to our attention. You are right. This is what we're going to do to fix it. That's okay. And if anything, it's probably a good thing to acknowledge it and make it clear how you're going to move forwards.
Yeah. There's a great story from one of the Alex Hormozy books. I'll share it, whether you want it or not. Alex Hormozy is getting mentored by a guy working in the shop. This lady comes in and she's pretty upset about how one of the buttons has just fallen off her 1,500 quid coat, right? And she's sort of having a go at the worker. He says, right, I'll go and get my manager. And he looks at Alex Hormozy and says, watch this. It's super calm guy, right? Walks up to her, instantly gets absolutely irate at the fact that the button fell off the jacket and is like escalating it really far. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you've just bought the coat. It's a brand new coat and the button's fallen off straight away. I'm going to fire everybody involved with this. I'm going to make sure that everything is done possibly. I'll make sure that your coat is fixed. In fact, I'll go and do it now to get it sorted for you now. And she's like, well, it's okay. It's just a button. And she instantly calms down. He said the lesson there is that there's only room for one idiot in the room. So if you escalate it past the point, like, be on their side, be like, yeah, no, I can't believe it. It's that, like, instantly she puts it into perspective and she's like, well, it's only a button. So yeah, I thought that was a funny story.
There's a funny story. Yeah.
The other one is if a customer asks for a refund, just give it to them. You're much better off spending the time trying to acquire a new customer than you are trying to hold on to the money from a customer that wants their money back. If the customer doesn't want you to have their money, you shouldn't want the money. Profit is the applause your customers give you for doing a good job. So if they want the money back, you didn't do a good enough job.
Nice. I like that. So, yeah. There's some clear, actionable stuff there, man.
Hopefully.
And lastly, how to deal with negative reviews.
It's difficult because reviews generally come once you've published something. Whether that's a product online, whether that's a book, whether that's a piece of content, you get reviews. Or a Fiverr gig, anything. I think understanding that you gave it your best. So before ever pushing publish, make sure that you have genuinely put your heart and soul into something and be proud of the work you've done. Make sure you didn't cut any corners when you were making it. Once something's out in the world, the public's going to say what the public's going to say. And you might have done but you can always find comfort in the fact that you did the best job you could do. Which sounds incredibly passive for me to be saying that. I'm always like, don't do your best, do what's required.
But it's very similar to negative feedback from customers, isn't it? So negative reviews, you do want to pause, not take it personally. You want to respond quickly, you want to empathize, you want to thank them. Yeah, you want to sincerely apologize and be specific as well. You know, when it comes to review, they're likely talking to a very specific, you know, like the button scenario is the button, you know, so I'm sorry your coat wasn't good. I'm sorry the button has fallen off. Like, it's specific. It's drawing a direct attention to that. You can use their name, you can use their details, if whatever they've given you, so that way you're making it personal to them as well, so they feel like they have been heard. Negative reviews as well, you can also like take it offline, so take it directly to the person, like, look, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and you just converse with them on a face-to-face level as well, so that way you're helping mitigate the situation and come to a solution agreeably with them. So that is how to deal with negativity.
Wow. What an episode.
Smashed it.
Final word? Positivity.
Yes, love it. 10 out of 10.